So I'm right now working for Bouwinvest. When I wrote the report, I was still working at Savills. But that's not important. Basically, it's the RICS, which is founding also this report and the paper that we wrote. First, the definition. And I have to say it's a definition. There's probably 10 or 20 different definitions about Proptech. This one is very much aiming at the built environment. Some are much more aiming at the process or about the social impact which Proptech can also have. Maybe a nice subject for the debate also later. And within the paper we focused on 3 major themes which are listed there. So virtual reality, augmented reality, Internet of Things and platforms. But as you can see, we did mention some more topics. I will go very briefly through the 3 trends that we wrote about. The first one is about visualizing data. And here a lot of new startups and a lot of growing companies are actually investing, especially in this type of Proptech. But actually it goes back a long time. On the top right you see a BIM example, Building Information Modeling, which has been around for 25 years probably. More to the left we see an example of Layer, which is kind of exposing data from Funda. Funda, which is also Proptech, has already been around for 15 years. But showing these kind of data real life over a map. And anyone with children using Pokemon will kind of know what we're talking about. More to the right is virtual reality. And this is an example of the construct in which basically everybody here can just stitch together pictures, the 360-degree pictures together and create this kind of virtual walkthrough through any property that you have. So a lot of developments also in this case. Then the second major theme we discussed is the Internet of Things, and we called it Connecting the Dots. Examples, here I identified 3 sectors. Most to the top is, of course, like a building you can never miss in these type of presentations, the Edge from OVG, with 20 or 30,000, depending a little bit on what you're reading, sensors inside, continuously checking the building, but also providing the property management and also the workers there with information on the building. Right now, they are still. It's still the constraints to the building itself, but they're really thinking about, OVG is thinking about also expanding it with open data and maybe, have also input the times when Ajax is playing, and then maybe the next day a lot of people will start a bit later, so they can manage their parking spaces. They're thinking about integrating weather apps to also forecast better the use of their business. And this is a new building, but to the right there is an example of QuickSense, who is a company using sensors, collecting data with sensors also in existing buildings. Shopping streets, retail, there's also a lot going on there. Wi-Fi and Bluetooth are used to track consumers within shopping centers, within retail streets, and even inside stores. Retailers themselves use beacons inside stores to give extra data to the consumers, and also sometimes, maybe even a discount to certain products. And as sensors are getting cheaper and cheaper, it's now also very easy. And to the right is a nice, elegant example of a sensor you can just buy, put in your own home, and it measures the CO2, the temperature, humidity, and the general quality of the air and the surroundings around you. So these are some examples of Internet of Things, another major trend. The third one is platforms. As said, Funda is around for 15 years, 17 years. RealNext has been around for a long time. There's also newer ones. We know Airbnb, of course. To the left are kind of the examples where spare or redundant space is used by these kind of platforms and brought to the market. ParkB is an interesting one, which gives the opportunity to owners of buildings to rent out their parking places in off hours, so in the weekend hours, for instance, when it's an office building. And ParkB, again, is using other platforms. like Park Mobile and Park Online, to create a very easy way to pay there. So it's kind of, these kind of platforms are also linked together. Top right is platforms which are connecting different stakeholders in the whole process and just creating a better way of I mean, and a lot of times these stakeholders, they have different, I mean, they don't talk to each other's languages. There's a lot of, friction could be around there, and these kind of platforms try to take away the friction. And then increasingly over the past 1, maybe 2 years, we see a lot of fintech type of developments entering the Proptech. And these are platforms in which you can invest or have some kind of shared ownership of real estate. Then I said, okay, there's much more. A number of these subjects probably we are going to discuss about within the panel, and maybe we have to write a second installment of our paper to also include these. I would like that. I would like that. Then one picture about the life cycle. As you already saw in the definition, PropTech is everywhere, and it means that everyone here in the building, every company, every sector, you can find 10 or 20 different PropTech initiatives which can support you or which can challenge you at the same time, of course. But the one thing I just found out that actually maybe we should also put marketing there. Marketing is, of course, already within a number of the other cycles, but I think it deserves its own cycle, and also marketing is part of this. Then 2 more elements before we go to the panel. There's a lot of developments going on, and how to deal with that within a company. Well, actually, in the paper we wrote one example. We gave one example, but that's of course nonsense, because every company is different. They use different sectors. They have a different background. There's different people. They have different clients. So every company should, for themselves, think what is the best way to incorporate, to use these kind of PropTech developments. But one way to do that is the way that Google is doing it. They have the 70-20-10 system, in which they say, okay, 70% of all the efforts of the company and all the time and all the resources should just go to the core business, because you want to be around today and tomorrow, and that's why you should focus on the core business. But another 20% should be focused on developments which are connected to the core business, but are a little bit around it. So you can have this kind of groups with people from different departments, or other companies, and try to sit together and say, okay, can we develop new projects? Can we develop, or can we make existing projects better? And the last one, the 10%, that's really about the moonshots, about the blue sky development. So that's really aiming at things which have nothing to do with the core business, but might be the golden nuggets of tomorrow, or might be not. I mean, there's only one way to find out. And the core question for all the companies is this: are we agile, and are we able enough to deal with these kind of trends? And it's a question which we think you have to ask yourself every once in a while. Am I still able to deal with these opportunities and threats of PropTech? And the urgency, finally. Well, the urgency, that's maybe one of the things that was my takeaway, my personal takeaway, is that PropTech has been around. There's examples going back 15 years. But right now we are really at the start of the fast growth of PropTech. The data you see here is collected from a very recent report from KPMG. And they're stating that in 2016 there's 220 million invested in PropTech. But by 2020 it's going to be 20 billion. So that's a huge increase in investment in this sector. And this increase is of course much bigger than the percentual increase in real estate itself. And therefore the statement by KPMG is, forget the mantra about location. It's going to be technology.